Welcome students to Lab Rat Academy. Today is going to be an amazing day because we are going to be doing the basic anatomy lab on the crayfish. That's right, I said the crayfish. You may not have seen one in person before, but we get to see one up close and personal today. So let's take a look at our lesson plan. We're going to learn a little bit about the background before we get into starting to identify some of the structures outside and inside our crayfish. So first thing we need to do is classify where a crayfish would be in the middle of all the amazing living organisms on our planet. We have a way to classify them into 6 different kingdoms, like what's an animal, what's a plant, what's a fungus, what's a protist or a bacteria or an archaebacteria. All these different things could help us decide where is the crayfish, and they actually end up in the kingdom of Animalia. Yep, we're also in the kingdom Animalia, so we would be somewhat similar in that way, but they're definitely off to the side in a different phylum than we are. They are in the Arthropoda phylum, which means they're segmented. They are also in the class of Crustacea. You probably know of some other things that are in the class of Crustacea, like the lobster, which looks very, very similar to the crayfish you see up on the screen here. So we're going to be learning a little bit more about its behavior. First of all, these guys are aquatic. Do you guys know what aquatic means? Aqua. You probably can guess what aquatic means. That means they live in water. What's a special kind of water? They live in fresh water. Things like streams and ponds and rivers and lakes. And can you think of anything else that I haven't come up with? I bet you can. The lobsters, which are also in the class of Crustacea, they're in larger bodies of water, like seawater. They live in the ocean, so they grow a lot bigger. These guys are pretty small. Also, some fascinating facts about our crayfish is that they are nocturnal, and I bet you know what nocturnal means. That means they are normally do all their activity at nighttime. That's right. We are diurnal because we should be doing our activity during the day. Now, they are also omnivores. If you know anything about science, you probably know what an omnivore is. That tells you what kinds of things they eat. The omni means many. The root of omni means many. So they eat many different things, like bugs and plants and worms, which means meat. So they eat plants and animals. That's right. We are also omnivores, and we're going to be comparing our teeth to their teeth to see how our digestive system is different than theirs. Now, the size of your crayfish in your baggie here is fairly small. These guys are small, and they might run a little bit bigger than this. I think the biggest they would get would be the size of your tray, and that's pretty big if they're able to last that long and survive predators. So speaking of predators, they do have some meat in their tail region, in the abdomen region, and so they are good eating. And so can you think of anything that might want to eat some crayfish meat? You probably already know that people do eat crayfish. You probably need to eat a lot of these to be able to get a meal out of it that might fill up your tummy. But other things that might eat it in the wild would be maybe otters and raccoons, some possums, maybe coyotes. Things like this that would live near the water. Maybe a water bird, like a heron or an egret might also eat this. So let's take a look at this video right here. You'll see that this is in an aquarium setting, like somebody's pet. And he has made a little burrow for himself deep down inside of a cave. And so he's crawling out. So take a look at what he crawls out on. What kind of body parts does it have to be able to crawl out of that hole? And what does he move around to be able to feel and to move things around him? So as you can see in this video, he has some walking legs, some smaller ones along the underside of his body, and he's using those walking legs to move around. He also has these big 2 tools in front of him, kind of like hands, and he uses these big pinchers to move things around. And he has some things coming off of his head. Do you know what those are? Not antlers, they are antennas. And they use those for smelling and feeling and sensing how fast the water is going. So it's really important to feel things with those antennas. Yeah, pretty amazing. He might be making a salad right now, or maybe cutting his lawn. This is the grass outside of his front yard. Who knows what he could be doing right now? I bet if we continue, oh, looks like he just took a bite. So he could be cutting the grass with his teeth, or he could be having some lunch right now from that grass in the front of his house. That's pretty fascinating. Let's take a look at the next video. So in this one, you can see his behavior as he eats something. Can you guys see what he's eating? Look very closely. You can see he's eating a goldfish. So the goldfish is being held in front of his face with his big claws right up in front here. So he brings the fish to his mouth. You also see that some of his walking legs are also supporting that food near his face. And then he has all these appendages, like these structures in his mouth region that are waving in the water. And the interesting thing about that is he pushes water into his body so he can breathe oxygenated water while he's eating. Kind of important. Like if I was eating, I would probably need to breathe at the same time. Very important. I wouldn't want to hold my breath while I'm eating. Yeah. So another thing that's cool about the crayfish is that he eats this way. He has two teeth that go chomp, 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 which, if you think about it, that's different than us. Which direction do we chew? We chew up and down like this. He chews sideways. Very cool.